Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to this video. So this is the second video in the monitoring series. In my last video I gave you an introduction to CheckMK and how you can install CheckMK on a CentOS 7 and Ubuntu machine. So in this video I'm going to show you how you can create monitoring instances, also called sites in CheckMK, and what happens when you create a site and what you need to do to be able to access the web interface, how you can manage the sites, like how you can backup, how you can restore. So stick along to know more about the sites management in CheckMK. Right. So this is my terminal where I left from my previous video. So I'm on the Ubuntu VM01 virtual machine. So I'm on this virtual machine, Ubuntu VM01. At the moment, I haven't powered on any of the machines, so it's just this virtual machine I powered on. I don't need the client machines at the moment, so that's for my next videos where I'll be showing how to configure the client. So in this video, it's just about creating sites and accessing the web interface. So in all my videos, as I said in my previous video, I'll be using the CheckMK on Ubuntu. So initially in the previous video I showed how to install on CentOS 7, but that's for a demo purpose. I'm basically a CentOS Red Hat person, but for ease of use I'm going to stick with Ubuntu for the entire series when it comes to CheckMK server. Okay, so which OMD? OMD is there, OMD version, that's there, and OMD help. What we are going to do now is to create a site, create a monitoring instance. So we'll create a couple of sites. First, I'll show you what happens when you create a site. So when you create a site, first let's create a site called production. So when you create a site, it creates a user, it creates a group, and the user will have a home directory. It also creates a tempfs, which is a file system in memory for quick access, and some Apache processes. So the user and group will be named after the site that you create. So in this case, when you create a site called production, it's going to create a user called production and a group with the name production. So you have to make sure that you don't use the site name if you've got any user or group with the same name. Okay, so the command to do is sudo omd create and the site name. So if you want to know more about this particular command, and you can pause -- help option. So that gives you can pause the UID GID value. If you want to specify the UID and GID, you can do that, but I'm going to leave that to the default. -- reuse. If you do that, it's going to reuse an existing user. If you've got a user already and you want to make use of that user for managing this site, you can specify -- reuse. Reuse the existing one. Apache reload, no tempfs. You can also specify the tempfs size. Okay, let's stick with the default one. Sudo omd create production. So I can call it, it's just an instance name, just to identify this particular instance. It can be any name. So I'm giving it a name production. So when you do that, it says it's adding the tempfs file system to the etcfs tab. It's restarting Apache, so it has got some Apache configurations. Created the new site production. The site can be started with omd start production. So at the moment the site has been created, but it's not running. If you do omd sites, so that lists the command omd sites lists the available sites in your instance, in your installation. And if you do sudo omd status and the site name, says everything is stopped. There are lots of services. It starts Nagios, npcd, Apache, crontab, RRD, make event, and so on. So everything is stopped at the moment. So once you create it, you need to start it. So I'm going to copy this admin password here, and the default username for accessing the dashboard is cmkadmin. and the password. So I'm going to copy this password. We can change the password once we log into the dashboard. Copy. So now I need to, so before that, I'm going to show you what it did. So we created a site called production. So it should have created a user and group called production. ID production. So you can see it has created a user called production with the UID 999. It has also created a group production with the GID 1002. So if I do get int password production, so that's the OMD site production, that's the geekos, and the home directory for this particular user production is /omd sites production. The shell is set to bin bash, and if I do df minus hlp, df minus hlp, you can see it has created a tempfs file system for opt, OMD sites production, and temp. So it's going to use that tempfs for storing the temporary files for quicker access. And it should also have made an entry to the etcfs step. So whenever you restart your checkmk server, in this case Ubuntu VM01, it's going to mount the tempfs automatically for us. Fs tab, and you can see the entry here, tempfs. So it gets auto mounted every time you reboot your machine. Okay, sudo netstat minus nltp 80. So in the previous video when I showed you the installation part of it on Ubuntu, I forgot to mention that if you've got firewall enabled, firewall running on your machine, you have to make sure to open the port 80, and you don't have to worry about AC Linux because it's not installed by default unless you enabled and installed AC Linux on your Ubuntu machine. Right. So the step now is to start the instance, start the site, which is done by sudo omd start and the site name production. You can either do it this way, or you can become that user production, and once you're production, I'm the user production, so you don't have to specify the site name because this is one-to-one mapping. The user production is tied to the checkmk site production, so you can just do omd start, omd status, and so on. omd start, you can do it that way, or if you're other user, you use sudo omd start and the site name production. Okay, so that's started. So now we should be able to access it from the web browser. So on my host machine, I've got the machine names and IP address added to my etc host file, so I should be able to access it by the name. Okay, so going to my browser, if I do http ubuntu vm01.example.com, so that's the default Apache web page, the welcome page. So if you want to access the particular site, you need to specify that in the URL. So each site you create in your checkmk installation has its own URL production. So that's the login page. We know the username, admin user is CMK admin, and the password is what I've copied. Cool, so that's how the dashboard looks, a very clean dashboard. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've logged in as CMK admin, and if you scroll down here, you can click on users, and there is CMK admin, and I'm going to edit that file, edit that user, and change the password. I'm going to set that to CMK admin, and save it. Okay, so when you saved it, it logs you out, and we have to log in with the new password. So on checkmk web interface, whenever you do a change, it doesn't get applied immediately. It waits in the pending area, and you need to apply that change. So if I go back to users, you can see this warning here. There's one change, and if I click that change, it says pending changes. So what are all the pending changes? So you can go about changing your configuration whatever you want. You can add a host, you can do whatever you want, but unless you apply the change, it won't get affected. And all the pending changes will be listed here, and if you can selectively apply what you want. So in this case, as I've got just one pending change, there is no checkbox, so I'm going to activate the affected one, and it's activating at the moment, and there is no pending changes. So that's now been updated. And to log out, it's down here, log out. And on the sidebar here, these are all called snap-ins, I guess. And if you want, you can add more snap-ins. Yeah, it's called snap-in. These are custom snap-ins that you can add to your sidebar. And if you don't want anything particular, you can uh, do that. You can also disable that from the sidebar. Okay, so go to main menu, and if you don't want, for example, the tactile overview, you can remove the snap-in, and you can add it later if you want using that one. So let's log out and see if we can log in with the new password. CMK admin. Okay, cool. So that's how you create a site. You have to create it and you have to start it. And back in the console, if I do sudo omd status production, it says all these services are running. Okay, so now let's try and create another instance, another site. Sudo omd create testing. Okay, and I'll copy that password. Copy, and it should have created a user called testing with UID 998 and a group with GID 1003, cat etc fs tab. And there's a second entry for tempfs for the testing site. Okay, get end password testing. So that user's home directory is omd sites testing. And if I do sudo omd sites, so now we have got two sites. So let's start the second one. Sudo omd start testing. So that's started. Sudo omd status testing. The second site is running. So now let's go back here and change this to /testing. So that's the second instance. We previously accessed the production instance, so now it's a second instance called testing CMK admin, and the password that it gave us when we ran the omd create command. Okay, so that's another clean dashboard, and this is the testing. So this is how you run. So this is called the multi-tenancy. You can run multiple instances of CheckMK on a single server. So now we've got testing and production. So how would you remove it? So if you want to remove a site, it's sudo omd. So before that, I'll show you ls opt omd sites. So you've got production and testing. Let's remove the site testing. Sudo omd remove rm testing. So it's asking for a confirmation. It says it's going to stop all the process of this site, unmount the tempfs, remove tempfs from the fs tab, remove the user group home directory, restart the Apache daemon. Okay, let's say yes, we want to do all of those. Okay, so that's done. And if I do ID testing, no such user, group testing, groups, that's not the one, get ent group testing, nothing, get ent group production. So that's the production instance. We still have cat etc fs tab. So that temp fs entry from the fs tab has been deleted. ls opt omd sites, and the testing site has been deleted. Cool. So that's how you create a site. You delete a site. So now, what else can you do? So if you've got a site, sudo omd sites production, you can clone the site. Basically, it's done using the command called cp omd cp omd cp minus minus help. So what I'm trying to do here is this command omd cp. We've done the create start stop status. So now let's do the copy command, and then we'll look at the backup and restore. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm going to copy the production instance. I'm going to create a new instance called testing with the same configuration as production. So before doing that, let's see how things work. Testing is gone, so I'm going to change that to production. Here, just to see that the change is propagating to the new instance when you do a copy, I'm going to create another user. User, new user, username, demo, for example, full name, demo, user, email address. I'm going to leave that one. Password, demo, demo, save. So there is one change, and if I look at the change, it's create new user demo. I'm going to activate that change. Okay, so that change is activated. Just to confirm, I'm going to log out and see if I'm able to log in using the demo user. Demo, yes, I can log in. So let me log out and go back to the terminal. So now what I'm going to do is, I've got this production site. I'm going to clone this site and deploy it into a new site. So for that, I'm going to do sudo omd copy, and if I see the options, you can specify the UID, GID. It's same as omd create, but in this case, it's going to ask the site that you're going to copy and the new site that you're going to deploy. Sudo omd copy, and I'm going to copy production, and I'm going to deploy that to testing. You cannot copy site production while it's running, so we have to stop that site. Sudo omd stop production. Okay, so that's stopped, and if I do the copy command again, okay, so that's started, and if I do sudo omd sites, you can see the site testing. Okay, but again, this site won't, I don't think it will have the same password. Let's see the history. Oh god, I don't have the history, but I think it should be the same username and password. Let's try that out. So testing, site not started obviously. Okay, sudo omd start testing. That's started. Slash testing cmk admin cmk admin. Cool, that has let me in, and if I log out and try demo, I'm in. Cool. So basically, what is it? If I go to, oh, okay, so I don't think this is a administrator user, it's just a normal user. That's why I don't see those user options, but I'm able to log in as demo, which means this is the exact copy of the production site. So we copied the production site, we deployed it to a new site called testing. You can either create a new site or you can copy this site. And what else can you do? Okay, I'm gonna delete that again. Sudo omd remove testing. Yes. So now I'm gonna show you how you can do backup and restore. Okay, sudo omd site. So I've got just the production site. You know that we've created a new user called demo. Um, it is in that state at the moment. So I'm going to back up the site. And to do a backup, you don't have to stop the server, but to restore, I think you need to stop the server. You need to do a restore and then start the instance again. So let's do that again. Sudo omd backup. So that's a simple command. Sudo omd backup minus minus help. So there are a couple of options that you need to bear in mind. No RRD, no logs, which means as our cluster, as our instance is very simple, we just started it, we didn't have any data in it. It's not going to take, it doesn't have a big amount of data, and it's not going to take a lot of time. But if you're running CheckMK in production environment with lots and lots of clients sending in data to this CheckMK server, your data directory, the slash opt omd sites, whatever your site is, will be very huge, and it will contain the RRD files, which is the time series files. Um, I'll show you when I add a new host and see those graphs and other things. So those are stored in the RRD database for time series graphing, and that takes a lot of space in your file system. And the monitoring history, for example, the history includes when your host has been up, the history, the trend, availability, and so on. So that constitutes the history files. So if you don't want those history files and RRDs, that's going to speed up the backup process. So it's going to ignore all those files, and it's just going to copy the configuration, just the plain configuration. So that will be a little quicker. So if that's the case, you can pause minus n option, minus uppercase n, which is both these options combined, minus n. In our case, we don't have to do that. It's just a very simple instance. So sudo omd backup, and you need to specify a tar file, a compressed tar file. For example, let's use production backup.tgz. Uh, the site. Oh God. Okay. So since I'm not the production user, you need to specify which site you're backing up. Production site name and the tar file. Okay, so that's done. And if I do ls, that's there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the web interface, cmk admin. Now I don't have the testing site, it's production. It's not started because we stopped for the copying, but to do the backup we don't have to stop the site. But anyway, let's start it. Sudo omd start production. Okay, cmk admin. I'm logged in, and if I do go to users, so there's the demo user that I've created. So this whole site is backed up. Now, if I delete this, do you really want to delete the user demo as, and there is one change, which is delete the user demo. I'm going to activate that change. Okay, so it's activating, and if I go back to users, you won't see the demo user. So that's the state of it. And now I'm going to restore the backup. So for some reason you think that you made a configuration mistake or you did something wrong, like what I did now. I just accidentally deleted the demo user, but it could be much more complex than this, and you want to restore your site to how it was when you did your backup. You can do the restore using the restore command. Sudo omd restore production and the backup file. But I don't think it will let you do the restore unless you stop the site. Let's try this out. Okay, restoring site production already existing. So let's stop it. Sudo omd stop. production. So it says site production already existing. So when you restore it, I think you have to delete it, and then let's try and see what happens. Okay, it says site production already exists. So let's remove it. Sudo omd remove production. Yes. So that's deleted, and let's do a restore now. Sudo omd restore production and the file. Okay, so that's been completely restored. We completely wiped out the site. We deleted the site and we restored it from the backup. Let's see if we can access the site. Production, it's not started. Sudo omd start production. Started. And you are in. And if I go to users, you can see the demo user. So basically we restored the entire site from the backup. Okay, so that's how you do your backup and restore. I think I covered everything that I planned for this video. And if you've got like two servers, for example, you've got CheckMK installed on CentOS 7 and Ubuntu 18, and if you want to migrate your data from migrate your one of your site from one server to another, you can do it this way. What you have to do is sudo omd stop. For normal backups, you don't have to stop your instance, but if you're migrating the site data from one server to another server, it's better to stop it so that you don't lose any data. Sudo omd stop and the site name production, and then you do a backup. You copy the file, you create a file, sudo omd backup production, give it a name, production backup.tgz. You do that, you get that file, you scp that file to the new machine, and there you do a omd restore the name of your site and then this file. You can either do it this way, or you can directly write to the server instead of writing to this local machine. You can pipe that to SSH, for example, whatever your user is, root at CentOS VM01. For that, you don't need to specify that file here. I think it's dash to write to the std out, or you don't have to specify that as well. Sudo omd backup production, and in here you can cat that file to production backup.tgz, and then you can use the omd restore command, or you can do this as well, omd restore. So basically you're doing a backup, piping that over through SSH to this machine, and on that machine you're using the std in. Whatever data that's coming in, you're doing that omd restore with the site name production. Okay, cool. I think that's all I wanted to show you in this video. And if you have noticed, it's all not secure. It's all plain HTTP. So in my next video, I'm going to show you how we can use HTTPS with SSL certificates to protect your site, to protect your CheckMK dashboard using HTTPS. I'll be showing you how to use that with a self-signed certificate. That will be my next video. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please share it with your friends, and please subscribe for more videos. That gives me more motivation to do more and more videos. If something is not very clear, or if you don't understand, if something is not working for you, just please leave me a comment. I should be able to respond to you, because I've played with it for a bit before doing this video, so I hope I should be able to answer most of your queries. If not, I'll do my best to find out the response for you. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.